Well, good morning, everybody. Good early afternoon if you happen to be on the West Coast. It's Tuesday afternoon, and I guess it's just barely afternoon, 12:02 to be exact. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, and this is the new Cosmic Knowledge Channel. I'm very, very happy to see you here, and it does honor me when you take time from your very busy schedules it honors me that you will show up here and you will be in this great show. He must be on the phone. I'm not sure what that means, but I'm wondering, is my sound kind of weird? But anyway, here I am, Jeffrey Daugherty, ready to rock and roll. And it is 12 o'clock, right? There seems to be some confusion in the chat room. But yes, anyway, here we are. And I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. This is the new Cosmic Knowledge Channel, and I'm very happy to have you here with me. We've got a great study today. And because, again, it is so detailed and so interesting, and I think so important, we do have a little bit of I always say Wayne Steiger style presentation again. And I have actually mastered Pages. Macintosh Pages. So we will be presenting it in full Macintosh splendor today, live from the Matthews studio in Clearwater, Florida. Of course, we do have the Eastern Front NCK bunker over in Fort Lauderdale, Florida now. And we're doing a lot of work from there, a lot of broadcasting from there, and teaming up with Sandra D'Angelo. Sandra is working with me hand in hand, side by side, helping me with a lot of the work here. I'm trying to do my best to help her with a lot of her work. And if you're corresponding with me about appointments, which I'm doing totally, completely available again, thanks to the pushing and prodding of the lovely and talented Miss Angelo, you may be talking with her, you may be talking with me, but we'll definitely get you set up, and we're very happy and excited to work with you folks. And it's funny, I talk about the Wayne Steiger style of broadcast we're going to do today because it's very deep and very intense, and it's a subject that I might not have ever broached if I wasn't hanging out with Sandra D'Angelo. It's really something. Thank you from India. I really appreciate that very much. The people you hang around are so important, because when you hang around good people, you get in touch with good ideas. And it's the old saying, when you lie down with dogs, you wake up with fleas. But when you lie down with big dogs, boom, you wake up with big, great ideas. And it's kind of interesting. Dating Sandra D'Angelo is sort of like dating Dana Scully, only more woo-woo. Actually, being in love with Sandra D'Angelo is like as if Fox Mulder walked into Dana Scully, then that's the person you have. Fox Mulder in Dana Scully's body. That's what you'd have. And speaking of walk-ins, on tomorrow, 11 a.m., get ready for the Serpent and Dove program featuring Sandra D'Angelo and myself. And we're going to be talking about just that, walk-ins. Fascinating, powerful. And it might surprise you that Sandra has one way, I have one way of looking at it, and maybe we'll find a way to meet in the middle, or maybe we'll find a way to agree to disagree and honor one another's opinions. But she looks at walk-ins from one particular point of view. I look at walk-ins from another point of view. And that, ladies and gentlemen, makes for a really good show. And I'm really encouraging you to be there. I'm really encouraging you to be part of it. And I'm encouraging you to go to Sandra D'Angelo's channel and subscribe. I think she's got just short of 800, and we cannot end this broadcast today, ladies and gentlemen, or 700, until she's over that 700 mark. So We all have to stay until a few people go over there and subscribe to the channel. And yes, I want you to do it because she's my sweetheart. But more important, I want you to do it because I'm here to help you. And the information that she provides is unique. It's not being provided anywhere else. And if you're a parent, you've got to go watch the video she did about something about training our kids or teaching our kids or something. It's the latest video. So go check that out. So let's talk a little bit about, thank you, Matt. Let's talk a little bit about whether or not we were created in a lab. Oh, and the reason I was thinking about Sandra is because I knew I had to say this. The 432 necklaces, the 432 necklaces, hexagram necklaces are now available on the MYSTECH website. It's a funny thing. I've got the 432 bracelet on. I always wear the 432 pendant, but Sandra came to visit this weekend and somehow the 432 pendant went home with her. So anyway, those are available now on the website. We also have the 432 hertz bracelets. And the whole idea of those are that if you need some help with unbalanced entities, that 432 frequency creates an area where they cannot enter into it without either A, snapping back into resonance and not being unbalanced anymore, or B, getting the hell out of there and coming back another day. So if you're having some challenges in those areas, or, I mean, Sandra says it just makes her feel more grounded, more stable. So very, very good stuff. And it's interesting because Sandra had upped her MYSTECH quotient. She was wearing a few extra things and found out that she was moving towards the Darty Marquise matrix of not sleeping. Always fired up. And that's great if you're a crazy guy like me and Halo just trying to change the world. But when you're a mother to a 5-year-old, you realize you need a little more sleep than just crazy haired guys like Halo and myself. But anyway, let's talk about this subject. Created in love or created in a lab? Wow. And I know that some of you aren't going to agree with me. I know that some of you aren't going to share my convictions about this. I know that some of you might even feel a tad miffed by some of my suggestions, but I'm just doing it because I feel like I have to do it. And this is one of those hanging out with Sandra D'Angelo things. Learning about love, learning about real power, learning about true power, learning about what is really going on in the spiritual realm. So I want to present to you today, again, in Wayne Steiger fashion, let's talk about created in love, not in a lab. Now, I won't be able to be quite as, well, maybe I will, I'm not going to be able to be quite as attentive to the chat room, but we'll get there in the end. And I hope any moderators can keep malfeasance to a minimum. But created in love, not in a lab, the real story of human creation. This is the New Cosmic Knowledge Channel. I'm Jeffrey Darty here on May Day. And you know what? Maybe that's appropriate. May Day, May Day, May Day. You weren't created in a lab. In my opinion, you were created in love. But I'm going to present some things that I hope that you will at least be willing to look at. And, of course, this all goes back to the Anunnaki. This all goes back to the stories of Sumer. I've read all the Sitchin books. I've actually read all of the Sumerian tablets. I've listened to everything that Rex and Wayne and everybody else had to say about them, and it's all good stuff. And I certainly am not giving you the last word on this. I'm not giving you the only opinion. I'm giving you my opinion, and that's why you have YouTube. So you can listen to a lot of opinions. It's like the old preacher told me one day. He said, Jeffrey, it's all right to milk a lot of cows. Just make your own butter. That's what I'm doing. Milking cows, making butter. And we all know the story of the Anunnaki Sumerian creation account. We know it was in a lab, that was, and we're not going to get into all the names and stuff because a lot of you don't remember them anyway, but basically there was these Anunnaki people that came to Earth and they're mining the gold, and they were all gods, basically. And some of the gods said, yo, why do we got to be down here in the mines doing the dirty work while you guys are floating around on clouds or cities or spaceships or whatever, enjoying the fruits of our labor? So they got together and said, well, you know what? Let's make another creature to do the work. Sounds like a good idea. So they started about making these creatures that were going to do the work. And they messed up big time. They had, half this and half that, and they had them dying and they had them bleeding. They had them couldn't breathe, couldn't walk. They made a lot of big mistakes. All of these were created in a lab. All of these were created to be beasts of burden. They were created to be workers. There was a lot of experimentation, a lot of failed forms, which causes me to ask, what kind of gods are these anyway? What kind of a god doesn't know how to do some basic creation? I would think that if you're a god, creating stuff is what you're good at. So I've always had a little bit of problem with this idea that the gods that created us and that created the heavens and the earth, and many people think the Anunnaki are analogous with the Elohim. I'm not so sure. But if you're a god and you don't got creating down, I'm not so sure that I'm on your team. I'm not so sure I'm going to wear your t-shirt. Seems to me like a god would have better results in the creating business. I mean, it seems like the gods are in the creation business. And it seems to me, cousin, the business should be booming, not blowing up in your face. That's just me. But that's what caused me to say, wait a minute. If these gods keep messing up, maybe they're not gods. Or maybe the story's not exactly the way it's being told. So I said to myself, self, let's think about this. And so I started to think about this a little bit more. And being the researcher I am, I started to go to other creation myths. I don't mean myth as in not true. I mean myth as in a epic story. And I found that the Sumerian Anunnaki, if you will, creation account mirrors most other creation epics. Whether you look in Egypt, whether you look in the Far East, whether you look in Mesoamerica, South America, whether you look in North America among the native, whether you look in the European concepts, the North, the South European, this idea of creation in some sort of a lab or in some sort of a laboratory environment, this creation that we were created to be beasts of burden or workers, this idea of experimentation, failed forms, seems to be, I wouldn't say it's ubiquitous. That means everywhere all the time, but I'd say there's a lot of it going on. And that these accounts, the Sumerian account does mirror most of the other creation epics. So there seems to be this idea of being created in a lab, which goes across human culture, or at least the human culture that we've been exposed to, even the biblical story. If you think about the biblical creation story in Genesis chapter 2, it almost sounds like a voodoo ritual. I wish I had some drums. Of course, I can't even play the radio, but just imagine voodoo music in your mind. And here's the Lord, right, Yahweh, and he takes out of the dust of the ground, out of the dirt of the earth, right, and he gathers it up and he makes this body, and then he gets a spirit to go into this body, and he becomes a living soul. So Genesis chapter 2, Bible creation, sounds a lot like voodoo to me. And the correlations with the Anunnaki Sumerian story are obvious because, the Sumerians were doing it under maybe more sterile laboratory conditions, but Yahweh's out there making mud men and mud pies and, slightly more sophisticated than that. And then conning spirits to go into them, and boom, here they are walking around living people, which begs the question, are we all really golems? But anyway, that's another broadcast. So Genesis chapter 2 sounds like voodoo. Genesis chapter 2 sounds like Jewish mysticism. And stay tuned, because as you continue to read in Genesis, all of the people that he created that sinned, they got marched out east of Eden into a pen or an enclosure where they were working under reptilian taskmasters. I've taught you this over and over and over. I've written books about it. Study the channel. It's there. So the Sumerians, the Anunnakis, tell us we were created in a lab. We were created to be worker bees. The Bible creation story, Genesis 2, voodoo, lab, also says that we were created and put to work. And then you've got evolutionary theory. And the evolutionists say the whole world is a lab, right? It's all an experiment. From goo to you by way of the zoo, right? This molecule bumped into that molecule. This acid bumped into this acid, and this protein bumped into this protein, and poof, here we are. I know that's not really the story, but follow what I'm saying. I'm making a point. So from the Sumerians and the Anunnakis through the biblical Genesis 2 creation story, even into evolutionary theory, why does human culture seek to convince all of us that we're little more than a lab experiment? And then you got the atheist that thinks it's they probably go along evolutionary theory, but why does human culture want to convince us that either A, there's no divinity involved, or B, that if they were involved, they were sloppy? How many remember the Seinfeld episode, Poppy got a little sloppy? How many remember that? But anyway, either they didn't care, they were a little sloppy, they weren't that skilled, but anyway, they made us just to put us to work. Why does the dominant cultural paradigm want to convince you and want to convince me that we're little more than a lab experiment? So your friendly former CWB, your harmless little fuzzball. I would continue to dig. I would continue to look. I would continue to turn over every rock. And I found what I think is the real human creation story. And I submit for your consideration this idea coming from Genesis chapter 1. But Jeff, you just said the Bible creation story was in Genesis chapter 2. Well, it is. That's the true, coherent, biblical creation story that goes with the rest of the book. This story in Genesis 1 doesn't go with the rest of the book, and you're going to see why. In Genesis 1, 26, 27, 28, if you're a scholar and actually want to look it up for yourself, crazy idea, I know. But the real human creation story begins with God saying, let us make man in our image, after our likeness. So God created man, of course it includes woman, in his own image, and in the image of God created he him, male and female created he them. So God said, let's make a little baby in our image, and it'll look just like us. It'll have your nose, it'll have my eyes. Let's create him in our own image. You're male, I'm female, you're male. Let's create them that way, and oh, they'll be so cute. You think I'm joking, but how do human parents feel? What are the motivations of human parents? Oh, honey, we should have a baby because we love each other so much. We should have a baby because he would be so handsome. We should have a baby because she would be so cute. She'd have your little nose and my eyes and my strong chin and your dainty figures. Oh, be gorgeous. Human parents feel the push to procreate out of LOVE, baby, love. Human parents are motivated by the possibility and the potentiality of recreating themselves, seeing a mix of them, they and their spouse, expressed in a new form. What do humans produce? I'll wait. Have you ever seen a girl have a puppy? Have you ever seen a girl have a kitty? Have you ever seen a girl have a elephant? You know what I'm talking about. Human parents have human babies. What do those human babies come out looking like? Well, they come out looking like humans, but almost invariably, baby's got, daddy's eyes, mama's nose. Sometimes it looks like the mailman or the guy next door or the best friend. I'm just saying. And why do human parents have kids? I'll submit to you that the base motivation for procreation from humans is love. An expression of love, a tangible physical expression of love, a combination of love felt. And I know that there's bad parents and bad reasons and bad things that happen and children are produced. We're not talking about the exceptions right now. We're talking about the rule. Stay with me. So again, who were the Elohim? They were gods. I've shown this to you a million times. Gods and goddesses, male and female, more than one. Male and female. Let's create in our image. We're gods. We're goddesses. We're male. We're female. Let's create man in our image. So who were the Elohim? And now we're going to talk about the most powerful force in the universe. The Elohim were gods. The Elohim are gods. In 1 John chapter 4, verse number 8 says, God is love. The Elohim are gods. And I believe this is the loving, caring gods that John is talking about. He's certainly not talking about the God of the Old Testament. He's certainly not talking about the God known as Yahweh, Jehovah, Marduk. He's certainly not talking about that God, because that God is not love. That God is a killer. That God is a liar. That God is jealous. That God is revengeful by his own admission. But if John says God is love, who's he talking about? Is he not demonstrably talking about the Elohim? They are love. And if you get into the Greek, it means that the Elohim's basic motivational factor, the Elohim's basic motivational structure is the Elohim's basic most desire and most powerful emanation is love. The very essence of the gods, the very essence of the Elohim is love. And I submit to you that it was this love in which they created us. They'll look just like us. They'll be after our form. They'll be after our likeness. They'll be male. They'll be female. It'll be great. They didn't create us in a lab. They didn't mess up a bunch of times. They were gods. They did it right the first time, and they did it in love. And if I'm right, you weren't created in a lab. You were created in love. If God and divinity is love, and we know it is, then God and divinity is the beginning. In the beginning, what? God. So love is the original divine force. Love is what the true Elohim gods created you in. Love is what the true Elohim gods created me in. And with all due respect to the people that want to believe that we were created in a lab, with all due respect, I don't think y'all could be any more wrong. I don't think we're created in a lab. I think we're created in love. And I asked myself the question, why is everyone trying to convince us that we weren't created in love, that we were created in a lab? Because they know that the God and divinity is love. They know that God and divinity is the beginning, and they know that love is the original divine force. So what if we stopped arguing about whether sound or thought or dark or light was first and just realized love was first? And what if we realized, this is why I want you to go to Sandra's channel, because this is the kind of stuff you get when you start spending time with her. Love was first. And love, my friends, is the original, first, greatest power. It's the very power of the divine. The greatest superpower in the world is love. Who was it that, was it the Beatles that said love is all you need? Maybe those chaps understood some things. All you need is love. Right. Yeah, that's the Beatles. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, God said, let we the gods, make in our image, just like us, our essence, our nature, our being. And they're so cute with our nose and our face, and oh, they look so cute. Let us make man, woman, man, humans, us, let us make them in our image after our likeness. And the gods created us in their image. In the image of God, we've been created. Male and female, we've been created. Remember what human parents have? Humans, right. Do human parents have puppies? No. Do human parents have kittens? No. Human parents have human babies. What kind of babies does Elohim have? Elohim babies. You're a baby of the Elohim. You're a creation of the Elohim. What are you? Oh, shit, I'm an Elohim baby. Woo! That's what Ric Flair would say. If the Elohim were and are love, and love is their greatest power, then we, as their children, are also love, and love is our greatest power. Therefore, everyone who hears these words, you're all hearing it. Some of you love it, some of you hate it, but you're hearing it. Whoever hears these words, and this was spoken of by the master, I'm not going to call him the Christ anymore because I don't even like that term. It's been so polluted. The disciples called him master. I'll call him master. How about that? So the master said, anybody that hears my words and acts on them is wise. Wise. Wise as a serpent, gentle as a dove. Serpent and dove tomorrow, 11 a.m. right here. Sandra D'Angelo, Jeffrey Daugherty. Bam. Good stuff. Don't miss it. So if you hear the words and if you act on them, you're wise. And you're like a dude or a chick that built their house on the rock. What's the rock? The rock is that the gods are male and female. The gods are gods and goddesses. The gods are plural. They made us because they loved us and wanted to express themselves. We're baby gods. Love is our great superpower too. That's the rock. And brother, sister, let me tell you, when you really get it down on the inside, when your knower really knows that you were created in divine love, woo! Let me tell you something. When you really get it down in your heart of hearts that you were created in divine love, woo! That changes some things. When you really know that not only were you created in divine love, but you are walking around with the spark of divinity in you, the seed of divinity that's going to grow into fullness. Woo! Man, that will change some things in your life. And once you know those things, the rain may fall, the torrents may rage, the winds may blow, and they might beat against your house. I'm not telling you that once you know that it's all going to be unicorns and rainbows and sparkles and sunshine and marshmallows. No, rain is still going to fall. Torrents are still going to rage. Winds are still going to blow, and they're going to beat against your house. That's called life. And if you're on that rock, I'm created in love. I'm a baby Elohim. I got love in me. Love's the most powerful thing in all of the universe. You're like, let the rain fall. Let the torrents rage. Let the winds blow. Let them beat against my house. It's like the scene in Tombstone where the guy comes up with a shotgun and he's going to shoot Wyatt in the back. And Doc comes out, well, Johnny, whatever your name is. Johnny, I forget his name. And the guy stops in his tracks. And he's like, oh, my God, I was about to go up against Wyatt Earp, and he's just frozen in his tracks. It's Billy Bob Thornton and Doc and Wyatt and, Wyatt's brothers are just talking. And all of a sudden, this guy's standing there with a shotgun. He could have killed them all. And they're just ignoring him and going about their business. And all of a sudden, Doc looks over at him and says, oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you were even there. That's what happens when you know this stuff. Rain falls, torrents rage, winds blow, beat against the house. But it did not fall because his foundation was on the rock. The rock is, can you smell what the rock's got cooking? I'll tell you what we're cooking. God's made you, and they made you in love, not in a lab. I'll tell you what we got cooking. Your baby God, and you got the same power they got inside you. I'll tell you what we got cooking. Love is the power that created the universe. Love is the power that created you. Love's the greatest power there is, and God is love, and you are God, so you are love, and boom, that's, can you smell what the rock's got cooking? What's in you? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot you were even there. That's when you know you've made it. But everyone who hears these words and does not act, it's your choice, is foolish. I didn't say it. Master said it. Like someone who built their house upon a sand. What's the sand? You're really not that special. You're just a product of one enzyme bumping into another enzyme, bumping into a protein, bumping it into an amino acid. Not that big a deal. Oh, you know what? You're really not that special because you were created in a lab and they screwed it up so many times. It's amazing that you came out the way you did, and it explains the way that you came out because it was just a lab. It was just an experiment. And the only reason they were making you was to do some work. So you're really not that important. And when the rain comes and you're like, well, dude, I'm just like an accident of chemistry. And the torrents rage and you're like, wow, I'm made by a bunch of inept gods that didn't know what they were doing. It's no wonder I'm such a wreck. When the winds blow, it's like, well, yeah, they made me, but the only reason they made me was to put me to work. You're going to fall. And brother and sister, your collapse is going to be great. Some of you are living that collapse right now. They're like, I know what this crazy fool's talking about. I'm there. It's up to you. Both of these people here, one of them acts, one of them doesn't act. Well, my Bible says, well, Zechariah Sitchin said, well, the Sumerians said, and the Anunnaki said, and Planet X said, and don't get me started. The Flat Earth says that we weren't built in love. We weren't created in love. We're nothing special. You can believe that if you want. There's clearly two choices for you: rock, sand, wisdom, foolishness. And I'll just say it. The idea that we were created either by mistake or by inept gods that only created us to work, that's foolish. That's so foolish, and it's so sad. You're something special. You were created in love, not in a lab. And closing with the master's words: and you will not come to me that you might have life. And remember, he said life, and life more abundant. Life with peace that passes all understanding. Joy unspeakable, full of glory, half of which never even been told yet. Can you smell what the rocks got cooking? The Elohim's got cooking. It's up to you, ladies and gentlemen. It's up to you, boys and girls. It's up to you, children of all ages. Now, I've been rambling on for 36 minutes. I know some of you got things to do, but I'm going to go back to the chat room. I think I owe you the respect. Mama Chaos, Sandra D'Angelo, thank you for listening at work, Sandra. So nice to see Destiny Rule. Thank you. I deleted my Facebook account as well, so don't look for me there. Brian says he needs to step up his MYSTECH game. He's only wearing 5 pieces. Come on, man. You're an amateur. You got to get yourself up to 8 anyway. And Robert USN Vet says, let me double down. He still says we're created in a lab, but permission had to be granted by the creator to give us a spark in his spirit. Otherwise, we'd be soulless, artificial, viral, replicating entities. Interesting. They were not gods, although you have to respect, not worship their abilities. Okay. Has anyone read the Bhagavad Gita? I understand that's some good stuff. My good friend from India, thank you for watching. The Anunnaki were not gods. They were advanced humanoids using genetics, but Elohim meant from heaven to earth fell. No, that's not what it means. All you have to do is go into the original Hebrew. Elohim means gods and goddesses, male and female, plural. That's straight from the dictionary. You know, I love you. You don't know me, Mom. But I got to put a frowny face on your paper for that one because it's just not right. No wonder we have all kinds of mythical creatures. Interesting. I wonder if they made unicorns. Unicorn just refers to a one-horned rhinoceros. Boy, I tell you what, the rabbit holes. Squirrel! It's funny. I love this group. I love this group. We should look at the Vedas. Yes, that's good stuff. I haven't yet. The Sumerian texts are older than the Bible. Yes. That's why, let me be generous. The biblical record is, it has borrowed much. Plagiarized completely. The Sumerian text. They want us to be unaware of our true power. You're really not that fuzzy. If you're really honest with yourself, we're able to see that the children are also made out of ego. Interesting. Interesting. Daddy told me my brother was a puppy. What if love is God? What if God is love? Good one, Brian. Takes 2 for love. My opinion. Alien source of the Vedas. Interesting. Why not love in a lab? That's a good question. That's a good question. A love lab? Anything that is not divine. Pure love is an illusion. Not so sure I can go down that road with you there, Miss Angelo. Love can't be if you don't have it. We need to define love. I agree. What's real love? Inner work must be done to reach our true and pure essence, but it's possible to achieve full liberation and reconnect with our divinity. Yes, it is. Are you up on remote exorcisms, Jeff? Yep. Time to bring back divine, sacred, feminine? Yep. Trying to convince humanity that we were made in a lab as an attempt to keep us under illusion, under control. Smart woman. Thank you, Aurora. And not to, yeah, John hits on a great one, remote viewer. Things act different when you actually observe them too. Lit T's decided to become self-contained yin and yang. Now that's interesting. We're going to get Lit T on this channel. I got her email. I keep looking at it every day. And maybe, oh, Sandra's super busy this week. We'll get you on the channel. We'll get it scheduled. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. Interesting stuff. I love how Jeff still sounds like a Pentecostal preacher. Why you want to insult me like that? I wonder if Lit T says I've got a family history of mental illness. You don't know my people. Interesting stuff. I'm just running through here and seeing if I can find. He could be a regular Sunday preacher. That's funny. I don't know why you guys want to insult me like that. Only neuroscience can answer human emotions. My good friend from India, I don't know if I can agree with you, but I do appreciate you sharing your opinions with me. Thank you. All hell's breaking loose all over. Yes, it is. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's my 2 cents, and it might be worth not even that. But I'm convinced. I'm convinced. We weren't made in a lab. We were made in love. And that's the rock that keeps me standing through the floods, through the winds, through the rains, through the fires. You can beat on my door all you want. I ain't falling because I got the spark of divinity in me. I'm divine. I'm sovereign. I'm free. And I'm not moving an inch from those convictions unless you show me some proof. I hope you'll guide your own spirit, master your own ascension, be your own guru. I hope that you'll ask questions. I hope that you'll question answers. You're the Gospel Truth Army. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty. I salute you. Thank you, Mr. Alfester. Is it spiky today? I guess it is a little bit. More than anything else, ladies and gentlemen, half a cent. It's all part of unindoctrinating yourself.